Hi everybody! As you can see today we're going back to my random number generator challenge where I generate an issue of Colouring Heaven to actually work in. And because this video will be coming out on Christmas Eve, if I have worked things out accordingly, I do have a bit of an idea for a Christmas twist to this video today. But it might not work for every page. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and generate an issue of Colouring Heaven and a page number as we usually do. And I did realise when I was going back through my Colouring Heaven collection for the past few videos that I've been recording, I can actually start from issue 51. So today we're going from issue 51 as the minimum. So I do have an unbroken run of issues from issue 51 all the way up to the latest, which is 122, if I'm thinking right. Minimize the keyboard there and then generate. We're having a little bit of lag, so there might be a little bit of cut there. There we go. We're on to 103. So I'm going to go and find issue 103 and then I'll generate a page number and I'll see if my little idea will actually work. Oh no, I had hoped this day had come a lot later on, but I've been and looked up issue 103 and it is actually Garden Gnome Special. That is one of my least favourite issues. And this one I am actually using as a kind of a project book that I'm trying to colour every picture in there with a black biro or ballpoint pen. So once we've chosen a picture in this, I will be actually copying that onto separate paper because I want to keep this book as is. So I'll choose a page number now. We do have 40 designs in this one. See there, we have 40 designs, so I will be choosing a number between 1 and 40, although I have coloured the first two pictures in this one. Next, 40, minimize and generate. Page 21. So I'm going to find page 21 in here and show it to you guys so that you know there is no cheating here. Oh, this could be interesting. Yeah, this is the page. If I zoom us out here, yeah, this is the page 21. So what I'm going to do is scan that into the computer and actually print that out onto my own paper because I want to keep this book as is as much as possible. But I think this one might actually work for the idea that I do have planned. There might be a little bit of rejigging going on here, but I can see this working quite well. I'm going to be using my own colour palette, I think, Christmas colour palette, red, green and gold. And I won't be randomly generating any art supplies for this one. I think I've done myself enough of a mischief by actually coming up with this actual magazine, which is one of my least favourite magazines here. So I'm going to use any materials, any kind of way that I can find, and I'm going to turn this into a Christmas picture. And looking at it now, I can see what I would like to turn this one into, and that might involve some paper collage, maybe some acrylic markers. Yeah, I think I kind of know what I want to do with this one to turn it into a Christmas picture. This should be quite fun actually, but I'll go ahead now and copy this page onto some of my own paper and we'll zoom in and get started. There we go, I've actually gone ahead and printed that picture onto my own paper there. I did end up having to make the picture a little bit bigger than the one in the magazine. You can see there it is a very tiny bit bigger because I couldn't actually get the same size due to the settings on my printer, but just so you can see the whole picture there before I zoom in. And I'm keeping with the colour palette, a Christmas colour palette, red, green, gold. I may have to actually use some black. I'm not entirely sure yet whether I'm going to be making this into a snowy scene to be at the North Pole or moving them indoors to have them inside actually Santa's wooden cabin maybe with a window looking out onto the North Pole. I haven't quite decided that yet. But first of all, I thought I'd colour Santa and Mrs. Claus, change their costumes a little bit and see where we go from there. I think I might turn this into a table with a tablecloth if we're going the inside route and then end up replacing most of the background. There's going to be a lot of collage involved either way this week, I'm thinking. But we are going to end up with a Christmas picture, which was my idea in the first place. All in all, it's a pretty good picture to be turning into a Christmas picture, so I will zoom us in and we'll get started on Santa and Mrs. Claus. Here we are zoomed in and I thought we'd start with the Christmas couple here, Santa and Mrs. Claus. Just to keep things simple, I'm sticking with materials that I do know. So I'm going in with my markers straight away to give a little bit of a marker base. So I'm just using my Who markers and I'm hoping this red will actually last. It's kind of running out, this red, so I'm hoping this lasts to colour in Santa and Mrs. Claus. I might have to make Mrs. Claus's clothes a little bit of a different shade. We are having a few problems with our red running out there, and I did actually run into the problem that the ink hasn't really had a lot of time to dry because I wanted to get started on this today while I had time to film. So I've just got this straight off of the printer pretty much. We're going to have to get a little bit creative with Santa's hat here because he does have these patterns drawn on. I was thinking of maybe making this look as if it's been stitched together. Maybe adding in a little bit of line art here for the pattern he's got going on there. And we do want to bring in a furry edge to his hat. Santa does have. I'm going with the UK Santa. I know Santa does wear different costumes in different parts of the world, but I'm going with the traditional UK Santa. This is quite a simply drawn picture, so I'm going to go over the edges here with a quite a thick black fine liner, hoping to fit in with the rest of the picture. Maybe kind of disguise this edge here slightly. We can bring in the white gel pen, which is what I probably will do. A white bobble on the edge of his hat, and we can utilise this line art of the hedge here. I think that might work quite well to bring in this bobble for his hat. Something along those lines. Helping him on camera there, yeah. Most of this background I'm thinking now I will probably get rid of. There might be some hunting around for some suitable collage to be going into the background there. I do have some collage paper that looks like wooden planks. I think I might be able to bring in for this bottom here. So we're going to come in with the gel pen and try and disguise some of this line art here. I think I'll probably be going with something that looks good from a distance rather than holding up to close inspection, but it'll be fun, I think. This way it will be fun, even though the subject matter is not something that's really close to my heart. We will be bringing in a little bit of element of fun with working out how to change our characters here. Add in these stitches. Santa does have a black belt, if I am remembering rightly, so I'm just going to do that with a black Sharpie. Go over this line art as well to give him a little bit of fur around the edges of his cuffs. I'll give him a black band around his hat just to hide our changing line art there. There we go, that's not working too badly, I don't think. And we can go over the rest of this with the, if I can make this pen work. It's definitely on its last legs. The nib is very, very fluffy, and I can't really use the opposite end because that has leaked, and that end doesn't barely work at all. I think Mrs. Claus may have to have a green dress to be keeping with the green and red Christmas colour scheme, because I didn't actually randomise my colour scheme, because the challenge is changing this picture into the Christmas picture rather than using a limited palette. And of course the challenge is using a picture that, yeah, I really would not normally choose to colour. It's probably a good time to be having this issue come up though, because gnomes can be changed into a Christmas picture pretty easily, I'm thinking. If we have a gold band around the top there. And again, we're running into the problem of the ink leaking, but never mind. Okay, he's looking a lot like Santa there. And that marker, for anyone who does want to try anything like this, that was Hoo Hoo marker R2 Vermilion. And for Mrs. Claus's outfit here, I'm going to be going with a dark green. This one is BG2 Deep Green. Kind of a Christmassy green, I'm thinking. Or hoping. We'll put it that way. I'm going to give her outfit a red trim, so I'm going to go in with R3 Coral Red, because this pen wasn't really working too well. So I'm going to give her dress the red trim with this Coral Red, which is very slightly different to Santa's red, but still in keeping with my sort of colour scheme I want to go for. And her apron is going to be white. We'll go for gold gel pen. This is the Uniball Signo gold gel pen, just for the trim. Give Santa the same on his hat. I think I'll try and give Mrs. Claus this same furry band around her hat. Like so. Okay, that's sort of how we that's sort of how we were wanting that. And I might just use the Again, use the outline of this flower to bring in the bobble on Mrs. Claus's hat, although I will be cutting away that background. Although everything here is spur of the moment, nothing is planned because, yeah, it was a completely randomly generated page. And definitely not one I would have chosen even to turn into a Christmas page, if I'm perfectly honest. But yes, I have decided that whatever the generator comes up with, that will be what I do run with. So this is the same red I used for her costume. Bringing that in for a stripe on her hat. Not so much of a set costume for Mrs. Claus, I think. Mrs. Claus can be a little bit more free to express herself. Santa does have his traditional costume. Although I think some places it is Santa that wears green, if I'm remembering right. But our traditional Santa here in the UK is this guy here with his red suit and the white trims. So that's what we're going for. For the skin tones here, this eggshell white. I did try just now to go in with pastel peach, but that one is running out completely. So yeah, can't really be using that one. I have to try and be really careful not to smudge this printer ink. This is CG050. So I'm just going to bring this in from Mrs. Claus's hair. And this very light cool grey for a little bit of shading. This is BG050. I think I've decided a Santa's cabin kind of background to these guys, which will mean a lot of collage, a lot of getting rid of this kind of spring-like garden background. We'll give a little bit of shading to Santa's white fur here, white fur on his hat. A little bit of shading for his beard. He's got a big white beard. Okay, Santa, what kind of skin tone can we give you? We seem to be running out of them fairly fast. We'll try this barely beige and hope that has enough ink in it. I've just gone over Santa's mug with a green acrylic marker, just so it looks like a normal mug and not made out of wood. I think that should work quite well. And I will hopefully be able to go over that a little bit later and actually write his name on it for him. I think that will be really good. I have had another idea to maybe make this newspaper he's reading into Santa's naughty and nice list. That might be an idea I can get to work, and we'll see about that. But yeah, we're looking okay so far. We'll fill in his tea there with yellow ochre. Should be a good sort of tea colour. The teapot I might leave white, I think. So I'll just add a little bit of shading to the teapot here. Maybe thinking this is the same grey I was using. Maybe I could be a little bit wrong, but I'll add a little bit there with that grey anyway. That one is CG050. I think it was the same one I was using before. That's about all we can get done with our markers there for a base. I have switched the camera around a little bit to make this easier to be colouring in. So I'm going to go in now with some Prismacolors and start a little bit of shading. I might need to bring in some more pencils for the greys there, as I know I don't have any grey Prismacolors. But I'm going to start with the Tuscan Red and bring in a little bit of shading. The main aim is to even out this colour a little bit, as the marker was on its last legs while I was colouring. It was running out quite badly, so we do have a lot of streaks going on, and we do have a little bit of smudging from the ink because I didn't really have enough time to let the ink dry before I had to go straight in with this one. So I'm going to try and use the pencils to at least even out the shading a little bit. I'm going to keep it fairly simple because we do have a fairly simple image here. This one is the Carmine Red there, and I'm just using that to basically try and smooth out the marker, as it is looking a little bit blotchy here. And this is helping to maybe smooth it out. It's not quite the same colour exactly, but I think it's good enough for our purposes here. I'll bring in a tiny little bit of black because we are dealing with a pretty simple cartoony image here, so we can get away with maybe using a bit of black for our shading. Not going for realism. And I will be bringing in the white to add in a few little highlighted areas, especially where I would like to bring in the white gel pen, as I'd like to work on top of a little bit of white pencil. Let's have our light coming from this side. Okay, yeah, that's not looking too bad, I think. I'm going to go ahead and finish shading all these red parts of Santa's costume now, so I'll catch up with you in a few minutes. That's all the red done for Santa's costume, so let's give a little bit of shading to the skin tones now. This colour only just about showing up. This one is peach. But we do want to give Santa some nice rosy cheeks, so I'm going to maybe go in with a red or a pink there to try and give him some nice rosy cheeks. Add a little bit of poppy red maybe and see if we can blend that in to give him some rosy cheeks. He's got to be jolly, he's Santa. A little bit of red on his nose as well. He does live in the North Pole. It's cold in the North Pole, right? That's working quite nicely. I don't want to go too super dark with the skin. Maybe try a little bit of burnt ochre for the shadows. I do want to keep it fairly simple, and as I said, I don't really want to go super dark. Just a little bit of a lighter tone there I brought in for some blending, and that one is light peach? Yeah, light peach. Rather than blending with the white, I thought I'd try and come in with that light peach colour, and yep, seems to work quite well. So we can give Santa some shading for his skin. We can actually go over the line art for this sleeve a little bit more now. Maybe add in some little fur lines. That will help, I think. Although the red will show through again, so yeah, that's working. We'll probably do that for his beard as well once we've gone ahead and shaded that. So I'm just going to shade their skin now. I'll use the same colours to shade Mrs. Claus, gave her some nice jolly cheeks as well. And I'll catch up with you once all that's done. There's all the skin shaded now. I've tried to keep the shading fairly simple. As I said, the picture is quite a simple image, so I don't want to go too overboard. We're trying to make things look realistic. So now while I've got the colours here, I'm going to shade all the red on Mrs. Claus's outfit by using the same colours I used on Santa's. The shade of marker we did use here is very slightly different, but I think we can get away with using the same pencils to shade here. So I'm just going to go ahead and shade Mrs. Claus's outfit here, and then we'll have a look at what colours we can use to shade the green. And a slight change of plan there, I found out that the crimson red there was working a lot better than the other red, carmine red, that I used on Santa. The crimson red was working a lot better here for Mrs. Claus, so I'm going to go ahead and use that, as well as the Tuscan red and a little bit of black if I feel it needs. There we go, that's all the red on their costume shaded there. I do have a dark green in this set of Prismacolors. I'm not entirely sure if this will show up on the green of Mrs. Claus's outfit there. This is a dark green. It is showing up very slightly, but I think we might have to supplement that with the black, and we may need to bring in a lighter green and see if we can work with that to highlight the lighter areas. See, do we have a lighter green? I don't want to go too light because we do want to stick to our Christmas colours. Maybe this apple green. A little bit of shading just to highlight. And we'll bring in the black just for the very darkest areas of shadow. Same as we did on Santa, because yeah, it's not the most lifelike of picture, not the most realistic, so we will bring in a little bit of the black. There's all the green shaded now. Aside from Santa's cup, I've just realised we do have Santa's cup there. And I had a little plan for this cup. So I had a little bit of shading. And do I dare to freehand this? Oh dear. Let's try to freehand this. My idea is to put Santa's name on this mug. That didn't go as badly as I feared. Yeah, we do have Santa's name on his mug there. Awesome, that's going really well. And I don't really have any greys in this set of Prismacolors, so I'm going to go and grab some Polychromos and see if we have any that I could possibly use in there. I do have a couple of shades of grey in the Polychromos, and they are both warm greys. I'm not exactly sure how well that would work. Maybe I'll stick to this darker one and see if we can make that work for shading these outfits here. This is just me being a little bit lazy and not actually getting up to look for my Artisas or Castle Arts. I'm pretty sure we can make these work though. I might bring in the black Prismacolor because I think that I remember from another video that when I did blend that out with white, it turned into a kind of a grey blue colour, so maybe that will work for some shading here as well. Alright, that shading is not my best, but my idea is to go over the line art with the white gel pen. And the shading is basically just so the white gel pen will stand out. It is very thick line art though, so I think instead of covering this line art, we are just mainly lightening it. We use these warm greys for Mrs. Claus's hair as well. I think that would work quite well. Maybe a few white highlights as per usual. Gotta admit, I really want to get onto the fun bit of trying to collage in this background. I've got a few ideas spinning around in my head now. We're looking good there. Maybe we need to shade the gold a little bit though. I do like to bring in a brown to shade gold when I do use a gel pen or a Sharpie or anything like that. This one is back to Prismacolor. This one is dark brown. I'm happy with how that's coming. I think Mrs. Claus is pretty much done now, so we'll move on to Santa. Get him looking good. Add a little bit of shading to his beard and his furry kind of trims to his outfit. Let's make it a polka dot teapot. Sudden random ideas, yeah. Let's make that a polka dot teapot. Let's find some acrylic markers. We'll do red and green spots. Let's make it a little bit festive, just for fun. Yeah, I like that. I do like that. There we go. I'm fairly happy with that. Okay, we'll give Santa's beard some little kind of fluffy outlines here. The very outside of these parts here we're going to be cutting around, so anything like this I'd have to add on after we've actually put our background in, but I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. Just need to shade this T here maybe. There we go, that's how we're looking so far. I'm pretty happy with all that. I've got a couple ideas how to go ahead and change the background here to move these guys indoors into the North Pole in their little warm cabin. So I'm going to go now and search through all my collage bits and bobs and find some bits that I can use to kind of bring my idea to life here. So I'll catch up with you in a second. Okay then, I've just been and had a good rummage around in all my collage bits and pieces, and I found a few bits that I might be able to use to make a bit of an interior kind of scene going on here. First of all, I'd like to turn this tree stump here into more of a table. Kind of a round table that Santa's got his little cup of tea on there, and I thought maybe I could do that by making a tablecloth, just make it look as if it was covered with a tablecloth, just to keep things really simple. And I thought a good way to do that would be to use some collage paper, just patterned paper, to turn that into a bit of a tablecloth. And I found a few different designs in this book here. It is a Christmas edition of origami paper, so I've pulled out a few different designs here. These ones here. We've got this one which has little tiny reindeers on it, this one with Christmas trees, and a red version of Christmas trees. So one of those I'll be using for a tablecloth. I have this paper here which is kind of themed on a sort of wood grain theme. I thought I could use that as floorboards on the bottom here. This bottom part of the picture, if we can just move that up, that bottom part of the picture to give it a floor. Add a white strip of paper for a skirting board there. And then I have two choices for wallpaper to put into the background, a green one and a red one. So that's what we're working with there, either this gold and green Christmas trees or this kind of snowflake design. And I did have a vague idea of maybe putting a window in behind them, but I think once I've done the bottom bit with the tablecloth and the floorboards, I'll be able to think about that a little bit more and figure out what I really want to do in the background, because that's not 100% kind of sorted in my head yet. So I'm going to go ahead now and do the tablecloth. And what I'm thinking, and what my choice would be, I think, is to have that snowflakes as the wallpaper, and maybe have the green reindeer as the tablecloth with the yeah, with our wood grain coming in there. So what I'm going to do is trace off that shape of the table there and stick our tablecloth over the top. Just make sure we keep this curved edge here, maybe coming down in sort of tablecloth design. Draw on some folds and wrinkles into the fabric to make it look a bit more solid, as if it is actually a tablecloth. So I'll go ahead and start with that. I'm just tracing out the kind of shape that we would need to cut out of our paper to be a tablecloth here. Make that look like a bit of a tablecloth. Yeah, that's not too bad, is it? We should be able to make that work. Add a little bit of shading on top of that and see what we can actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe trim this little piece here a little bit to add in all the line art, and then see about adding in the rest of the background. Here's all our line art drawn in now on our little tablecloth that we're going to be sticking on there. I think that's fitting in fairly well. I'll add in the outer edge of the line art once it's actually stuck down. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of shading onto here before we stick him down. Just with the same greys that we did use for the white, for Santa's beard, and for the white trims on their clothes. So I'm going to add a few little bits of shading onto this tablecloth. Yep, I think that'll work quite well. So I'll go ahead and stick that one down, make any adjustments to the line art that I need to do. Then we'll move on to doing the floorboards. There is our tablecloth. Okay, we are doing well here. Now we need to move on and do the floorboards. I am probably pushing the boundaries a lot here, just using the original art, but this is about the only way I could figure to make this into a Christmas page. So I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with kind of the gut instinct, shall we say. I'm going to get rid of the background. So yeah, all we will be left with really is the table, Santa and Mrs. Claus, and this frame around the outside of the page. We do have a piece of card behind our colouring page here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut out all the background that we are not going to be using, so we can add in our own. That's a pretty big change there, but we are all cut out, and this is the last bit of the original image we are actually left with. I think we've gone for a pretty drastic change this time, but it's turning into a pretty good Christmas picture, I'm thinking. I did realise though that I forgot to change Santa's list here. Again, we're using the same greys for a little bit of shading here, just around the edges. Maybe inside where it's folded. And my idea was to make this into Santa's naughty or nice list, because he does make a list and he does check it twice. So we're going to change this into Santa's naughty or nice list with a little bit of white gel pen, I think. A little bit of creative adjustment of these lines we have going on here. I'm going to avoid shading into the middle of the page because I want to divide this into two columns for naughty and nice. And yeah, it wouldn't be this way round if he is reading it properly, I guess. But yeah, we're trying to make it kind of obvious that this is what Santa is actually reading, the naughty or nice list. So let's add our space in the middle here. Might need to get rid of the top lines there, because we need to have the headings naughty and nice. Like that, and I will just bring in my fine liner and add in these headings. There we go. I think we can see that says naughty and nice, so that's what we needed to show that that was Santa there. So now what we need to do is add in our background. I think we should be all right with trimming. That's on the camera, trimming along here, and we will need to trim the size of the actual paper so that we can stick it to the frame that we do have left. I'm also going to measure out a little bit of this piece of paper that we cut out from the background, because on the reverse it's still a white piece of paper, so I'm going to use that as the skirting board in the background there that would come above the floorboards, between the floorboards and the wall. So I'm going to stick that to the floorboards and then stick the floorboards to the picture, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, hopefully we have a fairly straight piece of skirting board there. I'll give it a little bit of shading once we've actually stuck it on. Before everything is stuck down properly, you might see there I found this image of a Christmas tree, and that is from a Christmas card that we had last year, and I thought this would look really nice in the background there before everything is actually stuck down. I've slipped that in behind Mrs. Claus there, and I think that's working pretty well. I was thinking maybe adding a window here behind Santa. I've got a bit of an idea for adding a window in there as well, I think might work. So yeah, what I'm going to do, and what I've started doing on this side, is just trimming in a bit more close to these branches here, and yeah, the tree will have a little bit of a white outline going on there, but I think I might be able to get away with it. We are having fun, it is Christmas time, and I might have that tree popping up over the edge of the frame there. I'm planning on going around the edge of this frame with a gold Sharpie once we're all done, so I'm thinking maybe that might fit in quite nicely once I've given him a bit more of a trim. So I'm going to trim off that tree and maybe slip that in behind Mrs. Claus there, and then show you how I'm thinking of maybe putting in a window. There we go. I think the tree is looking pretty nice like that, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick down the tree to Mrs. Claus there, just to tap that down before we add in the window and the rest of the background we're going to be using. I might actually add in a white line around the outline of Santa and Mrs. Claus, and that way the tree won't be looking too odd there. And then I'll show you how I was thinking of making a window. Okay, there we go, starting to have fun with the collage now, making a bit of a mess as you can see, but that's looking pretty good. And I was thinking, as I said, of putting in a window here behind Santa. And the way I was going to do that is just have the corner of the window frame coming in there. And what I found in this book here, Fun to Make and Do, I had when my son was really small, but he's grown up now, so yeah, I feel all right to be cutting up this book. And I found this page here, which has these kind of frame effects going on here. How to print using pasta, I think this page was, but what I'm interested in is this red frame here, which I think might make a good frame for a window. And what I thought was, I could pop in this snowy scene here behind the window and have the window frame with this snowy scene and pop that in behind Santa in our picture and see how that works. So yeah, this might work, it might not. I'm just having fun doing whatever I feel is right here. And I also have this Christmas card from last year as well. And I think having this little penguin waving through the window, I think might look quite cute with that snowy scene in the background. So yeah, we're going to have a go with that and see how well we get on. I'm going to try cutting out at least part of this red frame here from inside the book, and we'll see how we can make that work as a window frame. Get on camera there, yeah, I've popped in the little penguin there. I've cut out our little penguin because as you see there is a Santa there actually building a snowman, and we already have Santa in our picture, so even Santa can't be in two places at once, so we're going to pop a little penguin on there to stick over the top of Santa like that, and we're going to have a little snowy scene going on outside the window. There we go, with the penguin waving out there, and I think that's really cute. So I'm going to go ahead, stick all that down, and then see how that looks behind our Santa. Okay, we're getting there now. I think I've stuck down our window and I've stuck down our background. We are all actually one piece of paper now. I think we do need to come in with a white outline around Santa and Mrs. Claus there, just so the tree doesn't look so odd. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll add a few little white highlights here and there as well to the bits that I've collaged on, just to make it look as if it is all part of the same picture. But I'm really pleased with how it's come so far, yeah. Considering that this issue, definitely not one of my favourites, and not one that I probably would have coloured, aside from doing my little project of trying to colour each page with the ballpoint pen. Just for fun, I thought I'd cut out a few more of these little Christmas gnomes here, little gongs from this card, and dot them around the picture to see what we can make happen with those, just for a little bit of fun and to fill up this space here. This is definitely turning into more of a collage than an actual colouring page, but the basis is the colouring page, which is still there. So yeah, I'm going with it. Alright, I have stuck out a few more of these little gonk gnomes there. I thought they'd be quite fun and just fill up the space. So now I'm going to go ahead and go around the frame here with the gold Sharpie, and then I think we'll be calling it a day. Here's what we've ended up with today. I've zoomed this out so we can see pretty much the whole thing, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out, considering this issue is definitely not one of my favourites and not one that I was really looking to be colouring in like properly. It is a project book where I'm going through and colouring each page with a black ballpoint pen, but yeah, it was actually quite fun to be colouring this one and giving it a little bit of a Christmas twist there. I did have a lot of fun when it came to the collage. I think I maybe went a little bit overboard with the collage, but the whole premise of this video was to get a random picture chosen for me, random issue, random page number, and then give it my own little Christmas kind of theme, using any method that I thought necessary, any method I thought I could maybe use to get a little bit of Christmas theme going on. So I will show you the original picture. I have my magazine back here. We have page number 21. So there we go. That is the original picture there. And here is what we've actually ended up with. So yeah, a little bit of a difference there. It's kind of hard to see both on screen at the same time with the limited space I have here. Maybe we can get a bit of an overview there. There, kind of. Yeah, you can see there the big difference that we have actually made and given it a Christmas theme. My original idea, as I said, was to make this into Santa and Mrs. Claus in his little kind of grotto, his cabin in the North Pole. And I think we've done quite well. We've given the Christmas tree in the background there and this little window out onto the snowy scene. I do love these little kind of gonk gnomes that we've added in at the bottom there for a little bit of fun. I think that's worked super well. The collage was really fun to do. I kept the characters themselves pretty simple with just the markers and pencils, just for ease and quickness really, and something that I was more or less comfortable with doing. Looking at it now, I think my window is maybe a little bit wonky there, but yeah, I can live with it because it was so much fun to do, and hopefully it was fun for you guys to be watching. So as this video will be going out live on Christmas Eve, I'd like to wish everyone that celebrates a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye!